getting rid of the Second Amendment, well, maybe you don't, but that's going to increase taxes. Because once they get rid of everybody having guns, it's a ploy to increase taxes because they're going to say, well, what we'll do is we'll increase police protection. Well, police don't stop crime. It's a proven fact. They do not help. They're more like you could have a CPA with a gun going around taking reports of what happened because they don't. I mean, sure, there's some cases, maybe 1% of the cases where they stop a crime. I'm not saying that ain't bad. I'm just saying it's such a low percentage of where they actually stop a crime compared to all the crimes that are committed. And the news will, or whoever, politician will say, well, this is happening and it's great and they're great. And, they'll feed you a bunch of false statistics or twisted statistics, where they take a statistic and they only show you, or they show you a certain angle of the statistic. And the statistic will be true, but they'll show you an angle of where they're saying it's 20 times better than it truly is. I mean, it's crime. You to get rid of people having guns, and crime is going to escalate. There's no doubt. This country is too big and there's too many. There's way too much organized criminals here. I mean, it's not like they're going to just back off. Oh, there's no guns here. Well, we can back off being they did that with we can back off being volatile and stuff. They did that with the death sentence. They backed off. They thought, well, people aren't going to turn themselves in if we have a death sentence. So they said, well, let's back off the death sentence. They did that for I don't know how many years. I mean, there was states that they got away from the death sentence. They still had. I mean, that's when serial killers creeped up, and there was a bunch of serial killing and death sentence. So it's all this punishment and protection, people protecting themselves. It's if there's the statistic that's true, then high places where there's high volume of citizens allowed to carry guns, there's a lower crime. And where there's a statistic for people that not allowed to carry guns, there's higher crime. So it's all a ploy by the government. This government has been corrupted ever since, I'd say, prior to well, not even prior to, but right around when they started getting back to, not getting back to, because the revolution got rid of basically paying taxes. And now we're a tax heavy country. I mean, if you look at your phone bill, I mean, look at how many taxes are on your phone bill. They're in so much. There's so tax on everything, and they're wondering why people can't make it on $10 an hour, because you look at their freaking paycheck you think, wow, they're making that much money gross, and then you think, wow, you don't think about the taxes in every certain county there's just counties that are just greedy politicians, and they just suck the money right out of that paycheck. So if they weren't all these freaking taxes attached to everything that go into your freaking everything. I got a tax for water runoff, and it just runs off into my yard. There's nothing out. There's a ditch, and the water just drains into the ground. They charge me $18 a month for this water to drain into my yard, because they're claiming that I have a drainage system out there. And everybody on the street, they're getting $18 a month times 12 from everybody on the street, where there's no, where there's usually a water runoff system. You see the grates in the road where the water runs off. We don't have that here. There's nothing here. Everything soaks into the ground. Wouldn't matter if these used to be like farm area, and then they annexed it and has done nothing to it. I think they put up a street light, and they asphalted it to the point of highway asphalt, but they don't allow trucks through here. But that's how these counties are. These little districts and areas. You get away from the federal government, they think, yeah, government's okay, and then you get down to each, you got the federal, and then you got the state, and then you got district, county district, all these different freaking tax regulation areas that add a tax each step of the way. And they think we're better off now than we were back in the 1776, where we were taxed heavy. We had coffee and tea tax, and they didn't want that. I don't think I don't know. Here in Iowa, there's no food tax, unless I think they got. I don't know if this processed foods have tax. I know your raw foods and stuff don't have tax, because this is a farm state, so they got away with food tax. And some other packages, I don't know. Anyway. But you get rid of guns, and they're going to try to say, well, we need to increase the police because the crime, crime is getting heavy, and we need to put in more officers. So they're going to, and that's how these politicians, they get that money flowing through their hands and trickles, it's like water running through your hands in a river. Some of it's going to hit the politicians, So if you all use 2As want to know, of course they're socialists anyway. They think, well, with tax, we don't need money. Because they don't, I'm beginning to think that none of these people that are anti-2A or pro-communist and all these people, I don't think they have jobs. I actually don't, because they're not thinking of how much money's coming out. They're just thinking free money for them. So I'm thinking that this whole communist thing is for people that don't work, and the 2A is, I don't know, they think they're going to get, they're going to be a part of something in history. I think that's the only thing they're doing. They think, well, we changed history. People look back 100 years from now, they'll look back and on their escalating crime and say, I wonder why crime is so freaking heavy. You can't even walk out of your house now. And you have to call police into your area to move out of your house, and then they got a tax for that. And, the tax, it's going to increase. It's going to increase tax. So that's one thing about, you want to get rid of guns, it's going to increase taxes for all the protection that you will basically not get anyway, because they're going to just say they're going to get it, and they're going to take the money for it, but nothing's going to happen, because that's how politics are, and that's how government is. You pay for it, but you don't actually get anything for it. They just say it. You got it in writing. It's like a 9001 ISO company. It's in writing. We got the paperwork for it, but it doesn't mean necessarily that there's action happening.